what is LED? LED is a light-emitting diode, and it's a really simple technology. It's just a red, green, and blue element. It's made up of a circuit and a resistor. Very, very simple in its core, but because of how small it is, the manufacturing is very, very costly and very intense, and that's why we need sort of this evolution to happen in the marketplace, and it is happening very rapidly. So I think in 2014 it was something like $3 billion of LED was sold globally, which really isn't that much in the grand scheme, but now it's projected to go to 25 billion worldwide in 2023, and that's just incredible. And so the groupings of the diodes are what LED is. So in all of the technology here today, the video wall and the lights that we're going to talk about, we have these light-emitting diodes, and they're all grouped together in these tiny little elements, and that's how it works. A lot of benefits with LED lighting technology. The biggest one is energy efficiency. Really, really low power consumption and really, really long lifespan. Then there's all these other side benefits that you get with lighting technology, like no lamps to purchase, no gels. You don't have to go up in the ceiling to change gels like you used to back in the day. I don't know if anybody ever worked in the theater world or volunteered in high school. In theater, you had to get it for any color. You had to take an incandescent stage light and put a gel in front of it, which was just major work and major time, really. So another evolution that's happening in the marketplace is that the power companies are offering rebates to a level where you can pay off an entire lighting system upgrade for, say, a church sanctuary or an auditorium within 2 to 5 years because of the rebates that are offered combined with the energy savings that you get. So it's pretty exciting to see this evolution happen. And there's a lot of different LED light types. There's drop-in replacements, house fixtures, there's stage lighting, there's battens, there's all these different types. But essentially, this hands-off sort of technology that just works all the time. We don't have to maintain it, really. And there's different styles. So the architectural, the house lighting, this is where you can say, okay, power company, we've got all of these fixtures that we have in the space now. We're going to replace them with LED. What is our rebate? And you can get usually a pretty awesome thing going there with your power company. And it's a return on investment. But there's many types too with architectural LED. There's pendant, there's recessed can. Just to kind of give you a visual picture, this is a pendant style, and it's made up of an LED engine, which is this part, and what they call a driver in the back. And if you look on the back of it here, there's DMX in and out. DMX is a lighting control protocol. And what's really awesome is that this fixture can be controlled individually on a lighting system. So instead of groups or zones of lights only being able to be controlled, you can take and control individual house fixtures. And what's exciting about that is you could have, say, a couple fixtures in this section at 60% and a couple other fixtures at 80% and create all these different scenes without having to be so tied to the old dimmer style where we had everything in zones. Low energy consumption for house lighting, rebates, return on investment, and then all the different types of architectural. One of the exciting things too with architecturals is that now the cost is kind of coming almost to be the same. So we used to sell incandescent pendants for usually around $800 to $1,000 for a nice incandescent commercial pendant that was like 500 watts or something like that. And the LED isn't nowadays, because of the mass manufacturing and such, the cost isn't that much greater on the architectural side. Stage lights is a different thing. So if you look over here to the right, we've got a lot of different types. Up against the wall, we have what we call battens, and usually those are used for washing walls and things like that, color wash, that type of thing. You'll see that pattern that's being displayed up on the ceiling. That's from one of the moving lights in the middle, and just to the left of that is a Fresnel light and an ellipsoidal light that are both LED based, and that's sort of your bread and butter stage lighting. Fresnel and ellipsoidal, that's how we always used to do it in the stage lighting in the theater world, is those two types of lights. All of these lights here that we're showing, feel free to ask questions about them later on, and how they're used and what's the application. The exciting part of them, really, especially with the white ones, is it's variable white. So we have the ability with one fixture, like that Fresnel light, we can do different color temps based on the space. Because if you look at the space we're in today, a lot of ambient light. Well, the color temp we may be after could be a little bit different based on the space and the ambient light based on the time of the day, that type of thing. So variable white is exciting, and then also the ability to go from white to color with an LED fixture, and you just were never able to do that with on the fly unless you went with the old style moving lights. So that's pretty exciting. Lighting design, we look at a lot of factors when we're doing this. Biggest one obviously is what is the application, what is the look, the feel that you guys are after in your, I don't want to say production, but in a church service or in an auditorium event. You want evenness of coverage, aesthetics, color temp, and really sort of getting that mood and feel. So if you look at this picture, this is a customer of ours that we work with in Lakeville. That's a high school auditorium actually, and they're using all types of different LED technology. And you'll see they're using a hazer, and what it does is it sort of puts depth into the beams of light so you can see the light, and it's an effect really. So, and it's pretty exciting because it looks really neat. They use moving lights, they use the battens that we've got over here, the color wash, and a lot of different types. If you Google or YouTube search 3-point lighting, there's a lot of different how-tos about what it is, but it's essentially key, fill, and backlighting. And that's how you avoid straight down lighting where you've got, the shadows under the eyes, or my all-time favorite is when the lights are on the back wall and they're like ellipsoidals right in your eye, and there's deer in the headlights. The best lighting design is 45 degrees. This way, key light and fill light and backlighting. And that's where you get evenness of light without shadows under the eyes, shadows on the shoulders and such. So that's really what we look at when it comes to lighting and LED technology with lighting, and I really went fast through that. So before I go into the video wall and this kind of technology, any questions on LED lighting technology? Any questions on rebates, anything like that you guys have? No? Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead.
To talk to somebody about, because it's 2 points. One is kind of design, and then the second part is on the house light type rebate.
Right.
Is that something that you guys?
We do. Yep. Yes, we do. So what we'll do is we do an initial sort of assessment of a room with you, and then we have the contacts with the different power companies, get you in touch with them. A lot of the power companies now are doing what they call energy audits, and they'll come out and they'll do your whole building. They won't just look at your church sanctuary. They'll look at every room, how you're using power throughout the whole facility. But one of the things that I didn't cover is when we talked about evenness of coverage. One of the things that we do is we'll get a plan view, architectural of your space, and we'll do what we call a foot candle study. And that is when we select different fixtures and we look at different options for lighting and lighting types of fixtures. We can actually put them in a program that does the math that'll calculate based on the height of the fixture, width of the room, beam angle of the fixture, and all that, how many foot candles are in this, and how to get them even and how to space the lights out. And so for example, if you're doing a 1-to-1 swap out of house lights, based on the height of the ceiling, we have to have the right beam angle so that we get evenness of coverage. And we do that with what we call a foot candle study. And that's part of our proposal process when we propose to clients new systems, is to do a foot candle study. And the rule of thumb is that in seating areas, 20 to 30 foot candles even coverage is kind of the target that you're after. The other rule of thumb is in stage lighting, you want to be able with white to be in that 50 to 70 foot candles for it to look good. And just to kind of give you a measuring stick, because that's what all this is about, is trying to figure out, well, what does that look like? And it's hard. So a typical news broadcast, when you watch like a 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock news, they're at 100. Kind of give you a range for lighting. So that's how that works. Does that answer that question? Yeah. So any other questions on the lighting before I jump into this video technology? All right. Let's see here. Whoa, okay. So this is one of the more exciting products that we've had the opportunity to work with the past couple of years, and we've only installed one of them at a church so far, and it is expensive, but it's just incredible compared to projection what you get. An LED video wall, in my mind, really fits best in a room like this room in this church, where we have got major ambient light and huge windows and panes just everywhere. If you don't have that and you have a controlled environment, projection's going to be way less money. But as you can see with this video wall, it just pops, okay? So with projection and or video walls, there's two things happening. There's brightness and there's contrast, okay? So the definition of contrast, and you can look this up on Wikipedia if you want to fall asleep really fast one night, but contrast is the distance between black and white. It's how far can we get between black and white, the depth of color, and that's actually what our eye sees. We don't necessarily see brightness as much as we see color. It's the way that our eyes work. So if you think about the sun and nature and how beautiful, this time of year in spring when everything turns green, and that the reason that it looks so good is because we're seeing contrast. That's what our eye wants to see. And that's where this video wall technology really, really shines. We have thousands of RGB pixels, and then these panels connect together. Each panel has tons and tons of these tiny little RGB pixels. So when we're done with this presentation, I would really encourage you to get really close to the video wall and look at each little pixel has a red and green blue element in it. Then what happens is an image processor, or what they call a driver, formulates the video image and formats it for the screen based on the resolution that it's being sent to and based on the size of the wall. So that's how it works. They vary hugely by application. I'm sure most of you have been to Vegas on the Strip, and you've seen the big, huge LED video walls that all the hotels have, and they're advertising, the magic shows and all the different events and that kind of thing. And it's obviously the brightest place in the world in terms of the sun. It's sort of always out in Vegas, right? Well, that's why it works. They can be indoor, they can be curved, which is pretty cool. The scoreboards at the stadiums, that's what you see. It's all LED technology. And then what kind of content are we sending to it? So they vary. The video walls vary in density the density of the pixels is how the cost really varies. So what you're seeing today, what we're demoing, is a 5 mil video wall, or 5 millimeter pixel on the size. There's in the marketplace, I think the lowest that I've seen is 2. The most common is between 3 and 6 that people buy for indoor, and then outdoor is much, much bigger because the size of the walls are bigger and the distance far away is much, much different. But if you couple all of the benefits of contrast and brightness and all that together, a videoed image that will work in any ambient lighting condition, which you cannot do with projection. So as a team, we were talking yesterday what it would take in a room like this with projection to sort of compete with it. We sort of said, well, it probably couldn't. With a projector, you probably couldn't get it to look like this, but we think the equivalent would be anywhere from that 20 to 30,000 lumen range. And if you think about what that would take for projection, the cost is almost exactly the same. We would have projectors that have lamps that are $1,000 a lamp, or $2,000 for a pack of 2 lamps, and projectors that are just so expensive that could even try to compete in this kind of an ambient lighting condition. So the video walls are exciting, and I think that as the years pass now, coming forward, the cost is going to come down significantly to where these will be more common in indoor applications. So that's how video wall technology works, really briefly and in a nutshell, without getting into the engineering aspects. Questions on this?
So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about the serviceability. Right?
Great question. Yes.
Mm-hmm. What would be involved in actually fixing this?
Right.
That's hanging on my
Right. Okay. So the question was service. How do they get serviced? What about pixels, such and such? Well, each of the manufacturers has different warranty policies on the pixels, so that usually with each panel, they'll require a certain number within warranty before it needs to be swapped, or they'll take it on a warranty swap. Usually not 1 pixel, because you can't really see it if you're 20, 30 feet away, right? So that's their philosophy. Anyways, but the way they work is they all gang together, and different walls are easier to service than others. So it also depends on how you install it, whether they have to hang or they can be wall mounted. The more expensive video walls right now, you can actually walk up right to the front, and you can actually pull the panel. It's magnetic, and you can pull the panel off, and there's 2 little wired diodes, and you just unplug it and you can swap it. So we did a project last year in Fargo where it was a 16-foot wide video wall, and it was 9 feet tall, and it was installed, I think, something like $120,000, and we just said, well, if we're going to do this, why don't we just have an extra 2 to 4 panels, in a box, so that if, some day that something happens, we can just swap it. And that's exactly what happened. So it was still under warranty, but it was, let's see, Thursday before Easter. It was really good timing. So he called me, he called us, and he said, oh my gosh, one of my panels is not working right, and it's out. And we had the forethought to send this person with the church to the training with one of our guys, so he knew how to service it and swap it out, because we're in Minneapolis, he's in Fargo. It doesn't make any sense, right? So he swapped out the panel, sent it in for warranty repair, and it was done within an hour. So some of them are easier than others to service, but the bottom line is that we try to think forward with that too. So if we're installing in a certain environment, we're looking at all those factors, like how is that wall constructed? Can it really handle the weight? If we have to suspend it, how do we rig it? And then later, how do we service it? It all gets factored into the design. So, yeah.
What's your impression on the long term?
Right, yeah. So no one really knows because of how many hours it would take to figure that out. There isn't enough time in so many years to do it, but they're claiming 50,000 hours. But no one really knows. That's what they claim. So, anyways, any other questions? That was a really good question on the service.
What's the size of this panel?
Grant, what is the size of the 16 panels again? What did Caleb say? Yeah. And then, okay, what is the physical size again? 100 inches by. Okay, so it's roughly.
No, sorry. 20
100 inches by 60 inches. Right. So I know that one of my engineers said that the cost would be around 30,000-ish with the 5 mil product, and this is the 5 mil product, and that's today in 2015. Who knows what it's going to be 6 months or a year from now, it should be less. We have been seeing the prices come down. So that's a good question on the cost. Any other questions on it? Yeah. Yeah. The weight on this one, Grant, what would you say the weight is? Yeah, so the one we installed last year in Fargo was around 1,000 pounds for 16 feet wide, and that would be the size that we're gonna propose in this facility about a 14-foot wide image, and it's gonna be in that 800 to 1,000 pound range. So you do have to factor that in. I mean, that's a big part of the cost of putting it in is the weight and the installation. So